A therapist in San Francisco reported last month that over 60% of her new clients in 2026 aren't coming in because of relationships or grief. They're coming in because they no longer trust their own thoughts. Let us break down this invisible architecture. For years, we talked about artificial intelligence as a tool, something we would pick up and put down like a hammer or a calculator. By 2026, that metaphor has died. AI is no longer a tool. It is the environment. It is the infrastructure that manages your inbox, optimizes your schedule, and quietly filters which friends' updates you see based on how likely you are to engage with them. This constant, silent background process has created a new type of stress. In the past, if you felt overwhelmed, you could point to a specific project or a difficult boss. Today, the source of stress is often impossible to locate. It is the feeling that you are being constantly measured against an optimized version of yourself that doesn't actually exist. This is the first pillar of our modern anxiety, the pressure of the algorithmic ideal. We are living in a world where data points are used to predict our failures before we even make them. And that creates a state of perpetual defensive living. Think about how you work now compared to 3 years ago. The value of a human worker in 2026 is no longer about the ability to process information or even to generate creative content. The machines do that faster, cheaper, and often more accurately. This has led to a massive identity crisis. If my ability to write code, design graphics, or analyze legal documents can be replicated by a model running on a server farm in Iceland, then what am I actually for? This question is the heartbeat of the invisible architecture. It is an existential dread that has moved from the fringes of tech circles into the kitchens of everyday families. We are mourning the loss of our uniqueness. When a machine can write a poem that moves you to tears or compose a symphony that hits every emotional beat perfectly, the traditional human claim to the soul of creativity starts to feel fragile. This is not just about economics. It is about the displacement of the human spirit from the center of the narrative. But there is a second layer to this architecture that is even more unsettling, and that is the erosion of objective reality. We have reached a point where the cost of generating perfect misinformation is essentially zero. In 2026, we are haunted by the persistent doubt that anything we see on a screen is authentic. This creates a cognitive load that our brains were never designed to handle. Every video call, every news clip, every voice note from a loved one carries a micro-fraction of suspicion. Is this really them? Is this a deepfake? Is this an AI agent acting on their behalf? This constant verification process is exhausting. It leads to a state of hypervigilance where we are always scanning for glitches in the matrix, looking for that one misplaced pixel or unnatural vocal inflection that gives the game away. This environment of total skepticism has fragmented our social cohesion. When we cannot agree on what is real, we cannot build a shared future. The invisible architecture is, in many ways, a house of mirrors, where we are constantly bumping into versions of the truth that turn out to be illusions. Despite this, we are forced to participate. To opt out of the AI ecosystem in 2026 is to effectively choose social and economic exile. You cannot navigate the modern world without interacting with these systems. This creates a claustrophobic paradox. We fear the technology, we resent its intrusion, but we are utterly dependent on it. It is like being trapped in a high-speed vehicle where the driver is invisible and the brakes are non-existent. We watch as the algorithms optimize for efficiency at the expense of human nuance. We see companies replacing entire departments with automated workflows that don't need coffee breaks or health insurance. The anxiety here is not just about the loss of income, it is about the loss of agency. We are no longer the protagonists of our own lives. We are data points fueling a system that prioritizes output over experience. However, the most fascinating thing about this invisible architecture is how it is reshaping our brains. Neurologists are starting to see the effects of living in a predictive world. Because the AI is constantly trying to guess what we want next, our capacity for boredom and spontaneous thought is withering. Everything is served to us on a silver platter of relevance. While this sounds convenient, it actually removes the friction necessary for growth. We are becoming smoothed out. Our jagged edges, our weird impulses, our inefficient detours are being ironed out by a system that wants us to be predictable consumers. The anxiety we feel is our humanity's last-ditch effort to resist this homogenization. It is the friction of the soul rubbing against the gears of the machine. So, where do we go from here? If this invisible architecture is the reality of 2026, how do we survive within it without losing our minds? The answer isn't to run away, because there is nowhere left to hide. The answer is to lean into the things that machines fundamentally cannot do. The architecture is built on logic, probability, and patterns. It cannot understand the gut-wrenching weight of a personal sacrifice. It cannot experience the irrationality of true love or the messy, inefficient beauty of collective grief. The machines can simulate these things, but they cannot inhabit them. Our path forward lies in doubling down on our humanity. We need to prioritize face-to-face interaction, physical presence, and the kind of deep, slow thinking that doesn't fit into a 20-millisecond processing cycle. We have to become intentionally inefficient. We have to celebrate the mistakes, the glitches, and the weirdness that the algorithms try to filter out. We are currently in a transitional era. The history books will look back at 2026 as the year we finally realized that the digital world had become the dominant landscape. The anxiety we feel is the birth pain of a new way of being. We are learning how to be human in a world that no longer requires humans for its survival. That is a terrifying realization, but it is also a liberating one. If we are no longer needed for our productivity, then we are finally free to be valued for our existence. The invisible architecture can try to map our behaviors and predict our choices, but it can never touch the spark of consciousness that allows us to look at the system and say no. That defiance is where our power lies. As we move deeper into this year, keep an eye on how the architecture manifests in your own life. Notice when you are making a choice because you want to, and when you are making it because an algorithm steered you toward it. Notice when you are feeling anxious not because of a real threat, but because of a simulated one. By naming the invisible architecture, we take away its power. We move from being passive inhabitants of a programmed world to being conscious observers who can navigate its halls with intention. The anxiety doesn't have to be a weight. It can be a compass, pointing us toward the parts of ourselves that are still wild, still unpredictable, and still beautifully human. We are more than the sum of our data. We are the architects of our own internal world, even when the external one feels like it is built out of code. This is the challenge of our time: to stay awake in a world designed to lull us into a state of algorithmic comfort. Don't let the invisible walls close in. Keep searching for the cracks where the light gets in, because that is where the future is actually being written, not by a chip in a server room, but by the steady, beating heart of a person who refuses to be optimized.